Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I watched all 10 episodes. Congrats on the show. I had so much fun with it. I loved it so much. I love the outfit you're wearing, by the way. Your
Oh,
shirt is so
thank you.
cute. I was
Thank
obsessed. I was obsessed with the corset that Nimue wears, especially during like the last half of the show. And I'm curious for you, was there anything that you brought home with you after filming, like a piece of the wardrobe or a prop or something?
you. There's definitely a lot that I wanted to take from set. But also everything that you see, it's so like big and cumbersome. And that sort of, it was actually a piece of armor, but we made it out of leather. So it's a bit more fitted than steel leather. But at the end of the show, the amazing costume department that we have that made all those costumes, they gave me one of Nimwe's like signature woven belts. And I also, a couple of weeks after we wrapped, had this big package arrive on my doorstep, and it was the sword. So I hold the sword of power.
Yes, I love it. I was so hoping that you had the sword. I wasn't going to ask who had the sword, but I'm so happy it's you. So your character Nimue spends a lot of time in the water during the show. I love the epic water leaps when she's coming out with the sword. I'm curious for you in that particular sequence. I'm talking about the one where she comes out with the sword and she's fighting. Without giving away too many spoilers, how many times did you shoot that? What did that look like on set? I'm just really curious to know because that was one of my favorite sequences in the show.
Oh, I'm so glad. It's interesting because movie magic plays such a huge role. And I think it wasn't, I've always been a fan of this genre. And I don't think it was until I was filming this that I realized just how much kind of magic goes into putting it all together, but also how much effort. The scene that we're talking about, or that you're talking about without giving too much away, we actually shot that over 2 days. And it was the first, we shoot out of order, so like things that you see we may have shot months away from each other, and I hadn't actually during filming picked up a sword for 3 months because we'd been so full on with stunt choreography. So after the first hour, I actually I think I tore the ligaments in my right wrist. So that whole fight scene, my hand is strapped. But yeah, we shot in this beautiful pond sort of. It looks a lot more epic than that, but we took 2 days to shoot it, and I'm really proud of everyone and what they put together.
Yeah, I loved it. It looked gorgeous too. Like the cinematography and the visuals obviously are stunning. So again, without giving too much away, Nimue has a big love interest in the show. Again, that was one of my favorite parts in the show. And I'm curious for you, since we've all been at home, we're all watching, more shows, more movies. I'm streaming so much. Is there a particular show that you've been watching over the last few months? Or I'm just curious about any two actors or characters that you are shipping in a show, because I was shipping Nimue so much in this show, and I'm curious for you, do you have like a favorite TV show ship or movie ship, maybe something you've seen over the last couple of months, or just in general your favorites?
Well, it's fun. I mean, I feel like I've also, like everyone, I've probably watched more in the last couple of weeks and months than I usually would have. And so I'm trying to recall everything I've watched, but most recently I've been watching a lot of reality TV like Queer Eye and RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah.
And I just finished Pose season 2, and there's a really beautiful relationship in there between Angel and Pappy. So I was a big shipper of those two.
Awesome. I haven't watched Pose, but I love Billy Porter so much. He's amazing. With the climate that the entire world is in, obviously, like this show ends on a couple of different cliffhangers, literally. And I'm curious for you as an actor. I have talked with a lot of actors, during this time. Are you a little nervous about going back to work if they were to, green light a second season for this sooner than later? What are your thoughts in getting back into filming and getting back to work, after the climate in which we're in right now?
I mean, I'm excited. Like, I like this is one of those really rare jobs. I mean, maybe not a rare job, but for me, to be able to do what I love and call it a job is just such a surreal thing. And I think as a creative, it's been interesting creating during quarantine, but I'm also really excited to get back and see everyone and work with different people again. But at the same time, I think it's been hard for everyone, and including the music industry, including the film industry. And so I think we've just got to go back when it's safe, and no one really knows when that will be. But when we do, I think people will be really ready to get back to work in a safe way.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the show. Like I said, I watched all 10 episodes and I found it so fun. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch those water sequences now and look for yours, but I didn't notice anything. You rocked it. You did so well. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Catherine. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Devon. How are you?
I'm good, Lauren. Thank you so much. How are you?
Good. I watched all 10 episodes of the show. I had so much fun with it. I loved it so much. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but I thought you and Catherine had just such amazing chemistry. I know that this is like a little cliche, but I genuinely want to know the answer. For the sword training that you had to do, what was that like, and how long did you do the fight training, the sword choreography? Because I mean, the choreography and the visuals just looked amazing.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. That's really nice of you. It's, yeah, I guess it was like a 10-month journey because Catherine and I, in the beginning, we did a lot of training together with the stunt people, which is Steve Dent's stunt people, and Mo, who was our main trainer, really. And it was really like getting to the basics of trying not to hurt each other or to hurt anyone. And then it was like putting choreography to it. But it was one of those things where we're kind of leading up all the way to 10 and going on, hopefully, where it's like, you want the skill level to keep building and building because these guys they're young people. So they're still finding their ways in that world. So it was a lot of hard work and a lot of like accidental hits and things like that. So a lot of pain in moments, but it was so much fun. Like it's one of those things where I can't bring out in my day-to-day life, but it's good in the show.
You mean you're not like sword fighting on the streets or anything right now?
Unfortunately not. I think that would go really badly, but yeah, no, I know they actually production sent me the sword and I was like, who sent me this sword? And then I realized I was like, oh, okay, it's production. But I was like a little bit creeped out at the beginning.
I was just about to ask if you brought anything home with you from set after filming Wrapped.
I mean, I wanted to bring the leather back. I'm not going to lie. Some of those outfits, I'm like,
yes,
I could put that in the street. I could wear that. But no, unfortunately, I didn't take a lot. I have this amazing book, the graphic novel that Frank and Tom signed, and Frank did like a drawing. So it's like, I'm going to be touching that. That one's going in the corner.
That's all you need. That's all you need. That's like all you need from the show. Yeah. So I love how, Netflix releases all episodes all at once because I love a good binge watch. I'm curious for you though, since we've all been home, not traveling as much, social distancing, are there any particular shows or movies that you've watched over the last couple of months that you've really loved? And like, how are you feeling creatively right now as an actor during this time?
Yeah, it's one of those weird moments where I think every actor or every creative person is just like, oh my gosh, if I only had 2 weeks to myself, what I could do, like what I create. And then it's not like that. You realize how much you procrastinate. But yeah, no, I kind of just like been able to get into like a lot of shows that I never thought I would really get into, but now have become a massive fan. And something I was a massive fan of was Ozark. So it's like one of the best shows on TV. So it's
especially the last season was so good. Season 3 was my favorite. Laura Linney's amazing.
And the brother, I was like,
it's insane.
I was like, yeah.
Well, so at the finale of season 1 here, it ends on several different cliffhangers for so many different characters, all of the characters really. And I really want a season 2 like right now. I'm ready to watch it today. But are you? I asked Catherine and Lily this as well. But are you kind of nervous to get back to work, or are you more like gung ho about getting back into work with the state of like how the climate is and everything right now? Are you excited about going back to work, or is there going to be like, are you going to be doing like a little bit different of an approach?
Yeah, because it's hard because it's like, I mean, safety always comes first because with acting you're inevitably always together with someone. I'm dying to act again. I'm dying to get back in there and to do it again and to get straight into it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully there's a little time if we do season 2. There's a little time and things kind of settle down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I love it so much, but it's like a hard one.
Yeah. Last question for you. Earlier, you mentioned that when you were doing, there was some kind of like mess ups and, while you're doing choreography, I watched all 10 episodes. Is there anything that happened, between you and Catherine or for your character in another scene that wasn't supposed to happen and was just kind of maybe left in there that, but the audience might not know?
That's actually a really good question. I'm trying to think.
You probably just did the choreography spot on and it worked.
Yeah, I think that's how it happened. No, it was so, I don't really have anything. There was a few times where Katherine would fall over and it would be like an hilarious moment where we're in the middle of like a very intense scene. And then I remember when she fell off the horse once, which was hilarious, but it was like very like, are you okay?
Oh, that's
but,
like, yeah.
Yeah, but she's so good at choreography and like she's extremely athletic. So it's like everything kind of went very seamlessly and very easily. But no, it's one of those things where, oh no, the weirdest story I have is someone I went to high school with in Australia ended up fighting me in the scene in episode 10, one of the fight scenes. We actually ended up fighting each other and didn't realize we were a year apart at high school.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Yeah, it was really weird, but it was one of those things. It was a really cool moment.
It just happened. Well, Devon, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the show and I'm totally down for a season 2 whenever you guys can get back to filming.
Thank you so much for watching and I appreciate your time.
My biggest question for you though is, how cumbersome was that face makeup?
Well, I feel like it's actually, the thing that you don't see in the makeup, which I had to put on every time, is I actually have the tonsure, the brand. What is the kind of your the kind of branding on the back of my head, which when you combine it with putting on a hood, means that like it's got to be clipped to your hair all the time. Right. So, although the Weeping Monk has lots of incredible powers, one of them is not keeping his hood up at all times, which is part of, who his character was. So the most cumbersome part was if the wind got it, went into the hood, pulled back my hair, and like almost like ripped off the entire chunk of my hair. So I was like a weather vane, I had to make sure that I wasn't in any kind of direct wind tunnel.
Wow, that's interesting, because I thought the hardest part would be to match like the facial like makeup, but I didn't even think about like the head.
That was that that we had an amazing makeup artist, Lucy, who she was amazing, and she would put that on. No, the most cumbersome part was definitely the wind tunnel hood game, which I was very relieved by the end, as you've seen, that it could come down, and that was. But it was, it's part of the character, and I liked being kind of shrouded in this thing, in this kind of mystery. But I was very relieved when it came off.
I talked a lot with Katherine and Devon about the fight choreography, because like there's so much choreography and the visuals look amazing. So for you, for your process as an actor and getting into this role, what kind of training did you have to do? Because there's some very like hardcore scenes that your character has to do, and that I'm sure that took like a lot of training for you.
Yeah, I think like, as you know from watching it, I don't have a lot of words, and I loved that about the character. And what I wanted to do is his expression was and how he moved, so I wanted to do a lot of preparation for that, and partly that was learning how to fight, like but it was also how he fought. And so I would, I took ballet classes, I took things that would increase my ability to do something efficiently and in an artistic manner, because I think if his expression has become this, I think there's something really interesting about somebody who has all this conflict and has a way to express it. And so I knew that was the most important preparation, was to get to know how this person moved. And I worked with some people, some dance teachers and some choreographer, just in how a body would move and how to kind of use violence in an efficient way. And that was really cool to kind of combine those things, and something that I felt really important for him as a character.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cliffhangers that happen in that finale episode. And with your character especially, all the characters have amazing character arcs, but your character almost has one of the biggest character arcs, especially by the finale. So I'm curious for you as, you know, as an actor, and like I said, I was talking with all of your co-stars earlier today, with the state of the world that we're in right now, I'm like dying for a season 2 to see what happens. And are you kind of nervous to get back into filming with everything going on right now, or can you not wait to get back into filming?
Well, I think there's something really with all kind of professions. I think there's a sense that you especially when it's such a kind of intense experience, there's this kind of feeling of, oh, I need time off, you know, like I remember finishing this and going, right, that's it, I'm not gonna work for a while, and I want to kind of go back and study some stuff and, you know, do that. And then just as I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I've taken, you know, a few months off, and then of course all of this hit and the whole world shut down. And so there is definitely a sense of like that I'm getting the impatience, you know, of kind of thinking, oh, I really would love to be working. And I've done a lot of watching some great stuff while I've been at home, and kind of studying and recreating, you know, and rewatching things, and so there's a definite sense of like, okay, right now I want to get back and do the thing that I've kind of been doing all my life. But I'm sure that's kind of the same with everybody. You always complain about the thing when you're working. You're always like, oh, I need some time off, you know. So
yeah. Well, I can't wait for season 2. I don't know what type of guidance you have for your character in regards to season 2 yet, but I can't wait to see what happens with him.
Yeah. Lauren, I hope you get to see it, because it's definitely a character arc, like you say, that's really interesting, and I like the fact that it takes so long to get there. And
very long time. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And like I said, I cannot wait for season 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it.
I particularly love your character so much, and I don't want to give away too much for the audience because there's so many spoilers pretty much surrounding every single character in this show. But for your character, there is some really dark turns that she has to come across, especially towards later on in the series. And I'm curious for you as an actor, how did you approach that when you were reading the script? Were you reading it and being like, wow, like my character's really got to go to some like dark places?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I got the part, I was like, wow, this woman is incredibly strong. She's a fighter. She fights for what she believes in. She's really pure. And then obviously when I got the role and I was given all 10 episodes to read, I sort of was just like in my bed, like at my nan's house, just like skipping through all these episodes, like reading, and like locked myself away. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have struck gold. This character is incredible. And there are so many twists and turns, as you said, and so many specifically dark twists and turns. And I think as an actor, that's just so fun to play with, to be able to do the light and the dark. And often they're married together in this series. There's moments where she's fighting all of this by herself. And so she has no one to confide in, which I find really interesting. So there's almost like two faces she's trying to keep up, which is really cool to play.
Yeah, some of the scariest moments of the show are with your character, by the way, and the spider. I'm gonna have nightmares now. I'm gonna have nightmares now, Shalom, after that scene. Yeah, was there? I was speaking with everyone earlier in the day, and I spoke with Katherine about like her amazing costume she wore. And I'm curious for you, was there anything in particular that you took home with you after filming, whether it be like a wardrobe piece or a prop piece or anything like that?
I didn't take any wardrobe pieces or prop pieces, but I did take, and I don't know if hair and makeup are going to kill me for this.
Oh, no.
I was allowed to. My hair and makeup artist let me take them. Don't want to get her in trouble, but I took extensions that I wear because I have like a specific curl pattern and they match these extensions perfectly and they're so hard to find. So I was like, at the end of the shoot, she gave me this hug and she just like slipped this bag of like hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. So that's what
you use it.
Yeah, I use it all the time. I use them all the time. Like when my hair's curly, like, oh my gosh, they're like a godsend. They're amazing.
I love it so much. Well, like I told you, this show has been like a great escape for me. Obviously, we've all been, traveling less, social distancing. I've been watching so much more shows and movies even before. I mean, I was watching 160 movies a year, in past years, like doing film criticism, and I watched a lot of shows too. But I'm curious for you, while you've been home, are there any shows or movies that you've been binging or recently watching?
Yeah, well, I've definitely been rewatching all of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Okay.
So that's been one show. But I watched on Netflix. I watched Dogs of Berlin, which is it sounds a bit random. It's a German original Netflix series.
Okay.
It's actually really, really interesting and entertaining, and I really love the lead guy's performance in it. But also, I just finished watching Unorthodox, which I thought was
amazing.
Beautiful. I just thought the story was incredible and just such a incredibly educational. Just taught me something about a world I had no idea of, which is fascinating.
My in-laws have told me about that show. I'll definitely check it out. Last question I've heard nothing but good things. Netflix has some great stuff for sure. Last question for you. I mean, I spoke with, like I said, all of your other co-stars earlier today, and pretty much everyone's character ends on a cliffhanger, right? Like, I need a season 2 now. I need to know what's going to happen with all of these characters. So for you, like, since we, with the state of the world right now, are you nervous to get back to filmmaking? Like, is it going to be a different process for you, once it's safer to start filming again? What are your thoughts on that and getting back to work?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I would love to get back to work like everyone else, I think I just care more about the safety of everyone and those that are at risk in society. And, like, I've got some very close friends that are high risk. And so out of the respect for them, I just think the safer we are with it, the sooner we can all get back to the real world. I think if we go back to work too soon, it leaves those people that are super high risk locked inside for longer. And I think, the quicker we can get everyone back to normal would be great. But definitely, like, itching. There's only so much Animal Crossing I can play. I need to go back to work.
My friends have me addicted to it. I'm like, I need to redo my whole landscape now in my house.
Oh my God, I'm loving it. What's your native fruit on your island?
It's my native fruit is an apple. My native flowers are tulips.
Oh my God, cute. I love that.
What is yours? Wait, what is yours?
Pears and roses.
You got roses, so lucky.
I know, how rude is that?
I know, that's so rude. I love what you particularly did for this Merlin character in Cursed. My Merlin growing up was the Disney version of The Sword in the Stone, funny enough. And I know that there's so many Merlin's versions out there. And for you as an actor, was there a particular Merlin that you watched growing up or that you particularly liked, or even one that maybe you pulled from a little bit, if any?
Well, I certainly grew up with The Sword in the Stone Merlin as well.
So good.
And then I've seen a little bit of, the old Sam Neill one, and I've seen, different movies. And the thing is, like, it's already been, the role's already been interpreted in so many ways, so it sort of leaves an open playing field. That's the way I felt. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to draw from any of them. And this version that Tom and Frank has created is already so different on the page. So I didn't have to, I felt like, no, I don't have to owe up to a legacy, rather than, more than like trying to do this one as good as I possibly can.
We definitely want, a season 2. I personally want it sooner than later. So I'm curious for you as an actor, with the state of, the world that we're in right now, are you a little nervous to get back into acting and filmmaking with everything that's going on? I was talking to Katherine about it, and she said she was looking forward to it, but the fact that, there's all these precautions you have to take. I'm just curious for you as an actor, are you a little nervous about getting back to work? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not nervous. I'm just nervous that, that it will be practically hard, that it might not happen, or that it might get postponed. Yeah. I'm not particularly worried for, my own sake in that, in that way. I'm going to shoot a movie here in Sweden now in the fall. It was supposed to be shot in the Czech Republic, and now they put it in Sweden instead. Like, there are certain solutions that you might have to come up with. But yeah, no, I'm eager to go back to work. I haven't shot anything since we wrapped
Wow.
wrapped up Cursed, so I'm ready.
Yeah, you're so ready. Well, Gustav, thank you so much. Like I said, I had so much fun with the show. I thought your Merlin was a complete, total badass, so different from any versions I've seen before. So thank you for giving us this new version. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the character of Pym. What I love about your character, Pym, and her character development throughout the 10 episodes is that she's almost a little like unsure of herself at the beginning and then becomes more confident as it goes on. And I'm curious for you as an actor approaching this character, what was it like for you in regards to her character development and within the first couple of episodes versus watching her character develop over the next, like 9 episodes?
Yeah, I think there is so much growth throughout the first season, and I think as an actor I just took it one episode at a time, although not everything is filmed chronologically,
right?
But I think I tried my hardest not to spoil anything for myself in terms of where my story goes.
Yeah.
And just take every scene I do, fresh, as if I never knew it was coming. Because I think that's who Pym is. She's so fresh and open to new experiences.
Yeah. Well, I love the world that, Frank Miller and Tom Wheeler created. And when I was talking to Katherine, I was saying how much I loved her costumes. And I asked her if she, took anything home from set. And I'm curious for you as well. After filming wrapped, was there anything that you took from set?
No, I wish.
But
it all be kept there for a potential next season. There are costume pieces that I would, of course, have kept but no, they're all in storage, sadly. Maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. So I've talked to a lot of actors, during this time through Zoom chats, and, Cursed does end on several different cliffhangers for almost all of the characters. And I'm curious for you as an actor, we all want a season 2. I definitely do. I'm ready to watch it like today. So are you nervous about getting back to work and getting back to filmmaking with the state of the climate that we're in right now? How do you feel about getting back to work after this?
Yeah, I feel like I have no idea how to act anymore. Like the whole concept of acting feels so sort of alien to me. I'm really nervous. So when I do get back to set, I'm just gonna be absolutely clueless. But I'm sure it'll be like riding a horse, or a bike. You just, once you get into the rhythm of it, it'll, hopefully it'll feel comfortable again. I don't know what it means in terms of restrictions, health and safety. Yeah, I'm excited to be with people again.
I know, same. Well, with platforms like Netflix, they release all of their episodes, all on one time, like, Cursed and Sex Education. When those come out, I'm binging it right away. I want to see everything. But for you, since we've been at home the last couple of months, not doing as much travel, doing social distancing, not seeing as many people, what shows or movies have you been watching over the last couple of months? And how have you been like feeling creatively? Have you been binging a lot more, or what have you been doing like to kind of like from an actor point to like still like do that like that creative spark, while we've been inside and social distancing?
Yeah, there have been a few shows that I've watched. There's been Normal People that
obsessed.
Everyone is obsessed with. Absolutely brilliantly executed.
Daisy and Paul are amazing.
Yeah, they're just phenomenal. So yeah, they were incredibly inspiring to watch.
Yes.
I was like, I want to do that again. There's another show I watched called Pure. It's a British show about a young woman with undiagnosed OCD. That's brilliant if you haven't seen that.
Okay, I'm going to write that down because I want to watch that.
In terms of binging, I binged both of those shows, but I binged Ozark, which I hadn't seen before.
Amazing.
Such a good show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm currently watching every season of a Japanese reality show called Terrace House, which I also recommend. if you haven't seen it.
So cool. No, I will definitely take those recommendations. Well, Lily, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate your time so much. And I'm hoping we can have season 2 sooner than later. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Bye.
I particularly love the graphic imagery that's used throughout the shows as part of telling the story and the opening credits. So I'm wondering, for each of you, how did you choose what to use in order to tell the story and the episode specifically? Frank, I'll start with you.
You mean, I'm sorry, into the graphic imagery?
Yeah, the graphic imagery that's used throughout, like the episodes, in order, like kind of like the editing that's used throughout.
Yeah, that's chosen thematically to put you in the space of the story and weave you into the essentially the tapestry of Cursed. So it all has to do with, everything comes from story, and every illustration, every prop really comes from the needs of the story. It has to.
Exactly. Yeah. And Tom, for you, how did that, like, when you're working with this, how did the graphic imagery, like, what did you want specifically in regards to using that in this particular show?
For me, it was, well, there were a couple different aspects to it, because when Frank and I were initially talking about this world, we would talk about nature a lot, and we would talk about a very kind of naturalistic, we would talk about water a lot, of course, it's the Lady of the Lake, and we would, and so this was going to be a slightly different aesthetic than we've seen Frank, which Sin City or 300, they're very kind of, there's sort of this animated sense to it, kind of beautiful visual stylized world. This was going to be a more naturalistic world, but as we were looking at the episodes and the characters, and we did also always talk about this as kind of a dark fairy tale. And for me personally, I loved the idea of just kind of having a little bit more kind of Frank Miller and just in how we kind of go from scene to scene, and to give it that sense of, just give it a sense of a dark fairy tale, give it a sense of a storybook. And Frank talked about it as a storybook. And so it was also turned out to be a kind of elegant way to get us from A to B in a very practical way, how to, getting characters from one location to another. Yeah. But we fell in love with the way the title sequence was kind of bringing Frank's artwork in the book to life. And it was a great bridge into the show. And I think we just loved that look and what it was bringing. And then we're finding new ways to kind of bring it into the story.
You guys both mentioned world building, and especially in something like Cursed, you have to get the world, exact so that the viewer just dives in. And I just dove in right within the first episode. Frank, when you're creating something like Sin City and the process of this very, very unique world building, unlike something that any other filmmakers have done before, what is the first piece you create for that world? So for example, what's the first piece of world building you did for Sin City, and what's the first piece of world building you did for Cursed?
Well, in Sin City, I really I started with rather sketchy notions of what the city was like. I built more from the character outward, like what kind of world would this big lug of a guy named Marv inhabit? Mm-hmm. What kind of world would produce him, and what kind of world would he have an adventure within? And then as I was, and actually, this was, if I did it now, I would be planning it all out and charting it all out much more carefully. And instead, I was kind of blundering along, discovering the town along with everybody else, and but early on I decided that it would be a city where the normal rules of law and order were turned on their head. That the cops were all bad guys, and the good guys were all lowlifes and prostitutes and all of that. So the virtue was all, and of course the church was horrible. So it was the church was the center of the worst perversion. the and so from that it eventually it became more and more organized into the world of Sin City, so that by the time I was doing the second book of it, I had a very organized view of the world.